السلام عليكم. تيمي بالا مقدمة هوريها بيفنا بسمح بعد النمط أرمي وقت من بدل كل National Journal Justice Conference ده سبانسويس بشما بابا أمي رسمي هات بيفنا أمي كنستر مرتكا أمي رسمي عشر فكرة باني رسول جمهورية أمي قبلون ساجد محمد Prosecutor General of فيهم انتظام كوكين كوريا جندا أمي conference كي كورو كتين كعدل كنظام حرتنا كرما أقوله قطهم بابا conference مقطو ميادون فشكين أمي مهجا بار بنتوا هميا مي كوريا جندا conference का एक दायरा तक उन तमी कमा गुलुम होरी दायरा के अमी मंदो पुन त बैवरी पैरो मोहम्मद जफा वाकम फहा कुलवे मी गोता अमी दायरा के अमी बैवरी ना के का बाबा फुरत म बदल उन कमिस अमी फहा कुलवे मी फदा कॉन्फ्रेंस पेउम के मैगड मकसद पलाला इरुका इल्मी होतनो के मेच्च बिना को निजाम का होरी मसल तक हल्लु होदुमा कुरिया गेंदा अमी बदल में कम अमी फहा कुलवे अदे अरमे मी रस्मियातु मी अमी हा हिसाब ते बेफना हमिया के नस्तेना
मैडम साजिदा मोहम्मद।
الله أكبر
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأت بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف وانه عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمش في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور صدق الله العظيم.
ಏದರಿ ಫುಳವ ಹಮ ಕಶವರುಂ ಎ ಅಮಲಕಿ ರೆವಿ ಒಟ್ಟರೆಗ್ಗ ಬರುದಂ ಹುರಿ ಅಮಲ ಕಮುಗಾವಿಯಸ್ ಹಿಲಗ್ಗ ತೆರೆಗಾವಿಯಸ್ ನುವತ ಉಡುತಕುಗಾವಿಯಸ್ ನುವತ ಬಿಮುಗ ತೆರೆಗಾವಿಯಸ್ ಗಿಯಾಮದ್ದುವಹುಂ ಅಲ್ಲಾಹು ಎ ಅಮಲಗ್ಗ ನವಣತೆವೆ ಹಮ ಕಶವರುಂ ಅಲ್ಲಾಹಿ ಓಗ ವಂತಕಂ ಬೊಡು ಮೊಳ ದೆನ ಬೊಡಿಕೆಂ ವರಸ್ ಕಲಂಗೆವೆ ಏದರಿ ಫುಳವೆ ತಿಪಾ ನಮಾದು ಕಾಯಮು ಕುರಾಶವೆ ಅದಿ ಹೇವ್ ಕಂತಕ ಅಮುರು ಕುರಾಶವೆ ಅದಿ ನುಬಾ ಕಂತ ನಹಿ ಕುರಾಶವೆ ತಿಬಾಯ ಜೆಹೆ ಮುಸೀಬಾತ ಕೆ ಕುರಾಶವೆ ಹಮ ಕಶವರುಂ ಎಕಂ ವನಿ ಅಜುಂ ಕಂಡಾಳನ್ ಜೆಹೆ ಕಂತ ತಕುಗ ತೆರೆ ಇನ್ನವೆ ಅದಿ ಮೀಸ್ತಕುನ್ನ ಕಿಬುರು ವೆರಿವೆ ತಿಬಾಗೆ ಕೋತಾಫೈ ಅಂಬುರನುಲಾಶವೆ ಎಬಹಿ ಮೂನು ಅಂಬುರನುಲಾಶವೆ ಅದಿ ಬೊಡಾವೆಗೆನ್ವ ಹಾಲು ಬಿಮುಕಯನ್ನು ಹಿಂಗಾಶವೆ ಹಮ ಕಶವರುಂ ಕಿಬುರು ವೆರಿವೆ ಫಹುರು ವೆರಿವ ಎವ್ವಸ್ ಮೀಹಕುದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಾಹು ಲೋಪಿವೆ ಬೋಡಿಕೆನ್ನೆ ನುವೆತೆವೆ
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला अशरफिल अंबियाइ वल मुरसलीन व अला आलिहि व अस्हाबिहि अजमईन. नेशनल जुवेनाइल जस्टिस कॉन्फ्रेंस देहास फंसबेयुगे शरफ वरी मेहमान रईसुल जमहूरिया गे अमिकमलुं मैडम साजिदा मोहम्मद दौलत गे वजीरुं country representative of UNICEF to the Maldives Dr. Edward Edai, High Commissioners, Ambassadors, Acting Commissioner of Police, Conference Gathering, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. Ade miyadaki alunge kudakudinge duwas kamavu maayaku kudakudinge duwahuge heyotahuniya dive rajyege emmeha kudakudenna Prosecutor General Offiyoge emmeha Mozifonge namgaya algonuga amilla namuga rat dannama miyaduge kudakudinnaki migamuge mustaqbal migamuge ummeedu ehem wima ekudinna miyadavware fahi maadamayen hoda dinumuge ma maqsaduga algonu me miyadu mi fasha masakkatuge terein ekan kashawar kuruma beenumwa kantatta denegane ekam furihama kamayaku tamfiz kurang nufashanis irad kurevviya mimasekkai madun jassa nulane wahaka algondu furihama yagin kamayaku divehi rajyege huriha kudaku dinna aruwan jalsage baring alunmengi conference feshigen ediyei divehi ailaege duwas feshigen dia goed dakwadin video ekon fenigen ediyei Fatis namaduge bangige ada hela ebbande bifa kokko goa debeng ekuga mammaya bappaya ekiga namad kollagen hendunu nasta nagaluma fahu ekveri kama ufaveri kama eku madarsa gos mavvegemwa akirit gurwanuge barakatun duwas feshitan ufaveri higga manzare e video ki alunu mi conference kommeswaraka dramatize koggen tayyar kuffawa video ekama veenama wes e video entiya feniwada gati e ailage hagigata warak kaari manzartake ufaveri kama alaluma ogateri kama ehi tarikamuge macca binawefawa ailae mikala kitamme ailaen algonmenge mi divehi rajyega e bawle adi algonmen mmws beenumwani mi devi rajyege komme ailaki ves mifada ufaveri ailakavun divei komme kudakujja kives mifada ailaka nisbaba ufaveri adi kushuge vetta duru diriulmen ulumuge nasib libifawa kujjakavun ehennames hitameki mi fasafatige nufushuga oti warang hitamaveri manzarekkan midennevi balalumun algon menna fennani eki sababtaka hore warak kudairusure kushuge vettan hushayli eki baavettawge kuttakan hushaylifawa kuda kudintake mi kuda rajyega edduwahun anedduwaha ituromun datan conference feshumukurin algone mi dakkali aila e ailaga himne kuda kudinge wahaka kuda wagutukolakan effarata jassalafa alugandu mihar mi kiyaden ole wahaka adossale vumun kurin algondu mi dennevi nufu waras saaf ko tibe fonna sifa kore wegindane mige dehaftaen ha duwas kurin algondu mezmachan a massadege wahaka e massalaga himene kuda kujjege wahaka ei gaggandaka umurun 16 nuni 17 haruge kujje e kujja diriule rashuga e kujja mashhur wefawa wani nukiyamanteri kujjege gotuga kujjage umurum mivi kuda duwaskologe terega kujjaya behe tiriha vure gina masala Maldives police service ara kama behe ehen idarataka wani hushalifa kujjayaki wakkan kurma jinai eki minumves eki kuttakan hushalifa wa kamuge tuhumatu ufalifa kujje mikujjaya medu algun men amal kurani oti tingotaka ei ekujja juvenile detention center ka phonu ei furtamagoi nuni kudakudim balahatta markazaka ekujja phonu nuni kujja diriule rashuga bahattagen masala hallu korweto belun miswaltan algonda kurimati umun er kujjage umarsha kujja kiyum da gradesha kujjage aili kantaka belumafahu emme furtama algondu wes hitangeri kujjage maslahatuga evagutan emme rangalu gotaki kujja diriule rashuga bahattagen kujjage kankan rangalu koreveto masekke kurmaki kujjage maslahatta miyogotun emme rangalu gekama ehennamas e mujtamauga kujja kuvriye gotuga label kureifa wati mi emme rangalu option nunkan algon menna dene ganawunu dengoti kudakudim balahatta markazakan hojja badal kurun ehennames kujjage macca kureifawa tuhumattaka balairu efada markazakan ekujja badal koffinama ekujjage sababun e markazuga mihar tibi ehen kudinna waragina nedeve asartake forwa fanekan algon menna gabul korewunu ehem wima eves option ekkamakan algon menna kan nufenunu dengoti detention center eka ekujja badal kurun mi adi algon kurim mi dennevi option de option avremes algon men gabul kuragutuga kujjage maslahatuga rangalu nuun gotaka kanta vedanekama magu huluwede gotekkama algon menna gabul korewuni ei ailage ehitirekamu miharwes mahrum fawa kujjaku e kujjage hama ekene bedeniveriya kibain na diriulamun a mujtamaun ekaheriko kudin bandukura markazegga bandukurmaki waram madu halategga menuwi kujjage maslahatuga hama emme rangalu gota nuwanati kam mihen hori namas miwagutu algon men kurimatiga awen emme muhimmu suwalaki miharu den dawlatun ekujjaya medu alani konfialato ennu algon yagin dawlata kama behe faratakun mikujjaya medu amal qur'ana gote nimmewumuga algon mi dennevi kankama medu funko visnawanakan adi ekujjaya medu aluwafawa fiyawalaki mi dennevi kankamuge iturun ekujjage muli history medu funko visnewumafahu dawlata faseha go khiyar korevumuge badaluga ekujjage maslahatan iskan devwagen aluwafawa fiyawalaka wanakan alugana furihama yagin kan ebe jalsage bayaring alugunu gabul kuragotuga algunumge kurimatiga miwagutu onnanje hene emme muhimmu suwalaki midenneve kujja mi dennevi kujjage halat miha hisaba diyei ki vegento mi kujjage file balal mun inge hagigataki mi kujjage ailage kantatta kankan kujjage mikujjage aila kankan mikujjage umurun nuwa haruga dawlatuke samalkaman asfawa kujje adi failga hori rasmiliyakin toga nuwa harukaman otas ehenihen liyun kiyuntaka balayaruga evren kurimbes mikujjage kankan dawlatuke samalkaman asfawa wanakan aluganda yagin alugun nudannawan engeregas mikujjaya medu kankan mikujjay kankan dawlatuge samalkaman a hisabun evves kamek koffe nete waragina kantate kureifa ebuhuri kujja kurimativi aniyatakka guligen mige ahartake kurin mihege macca jinai dawwa kurevi emihagen hag wadabus bani libideifa miveti veddiya dihawarakan aharterega kujja behegotun hushalamun diya masaltaka guligen fuluhum ves ginaguna masekkate kurawwa fe ebuhuri DJJ invest ebefulunge mandate ge terein waragina kantate kurawwa fe ebuhuri social ministry invest gina masakkate kurawwa fe ebuhuri ehemwima suwalaki mi huriha emmen mi huriha kame kuriru wes kujjage diriulumuge hitamaveri hagigata badale geneifa nuwani kiwe bae e kujjaya medu gonhuswa daraja kankan daanjehuni kiwe bae kujjage aniyage shikareyaka vegen diyeru aniyadi mihage macca dawwa kurumge eturun PG ofihum wes e kujjage halata riyayakko fiyawlataken alafa nuwani kiwegen bae kujjage aila beenumba ehiderikan ekashigen ba wara for koddeifa we bae mige hayekka ahar kurin hedifawa kujjage assessment report ga e kujjaya medu gina kantattake fahakkofa wairu e reporta guligen ekashigen ba fiyawle elifa we bae dawlatuge eta muassasayakun eta fiyawlen alafa wairu e fiyawlatakun ekashigen ba natijaye nikumefa nuwani kiwegen bae alun gabul kura gotuga miswaltoge kuru jawabaki ekan ehen dimawumge emme bodu es sawbaki alun men komme muassasayakun wes komme sawbaka hore mihatana masekke kureifa huri e muassasayaka matikoffawa mendetuge terega bandu wetibe waki waki muassasay takege gotuga kama viti komme bayakwes ebayaka riti ebayege budget tande fembaruge foti gande ganegen ebayaka kamuda kote fahagen la masekke kureifa wati ehem mihun la kot ritikamun ege kote ganegen algon men hashigandan hewor to nunto wes balanula ekot lagen ule masekke koffa wati ಕೋಟ್ ಹೋದಿಫಹಂ ಎ ಕೋಟ ಬುರೆ ಅಳಗುಣಮೆಂಗೆ ಹಸಿಗಂಡು ಬಿಯವೆ ಬೊಡುವಿ ನಮವೆಸ್ ಅದಿ ಕೋಟ್ ಬಾವಿ ನಮವೆಸ್ ಹಾಮ ಗದಕಂ ವಿಯಸ್ ಎ ಕೋಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಗೆನ್ ತಂತನಂ ಫತಿನ್ ದಿಯಸ್ ಎ ಕೋಟ್ ಅಳಗುಣಮೆನ್ ಲ್ಯಾಗೆನ್ ಉಳೆನ್ ಮಸೆಕ್ಕೆ ಕುರೈಫಾವಾತಿ ದಂಡವ ಉಂದಗು ವಾಹತ ಮಿಹುನ್ನನಿ ಎಹೆನ್ ನಮವೆಸ್ ಹಗೀಗತಕಿ ಎ ಕುಜ್ಜಾಗೆ ಹಾಲತ್ ಎ ಹಿಸಾಬ ದಿಯೈ ಎ ಕುಜ್ಜಾಗೆ ಮಸಲೆಯಕುನ್ ನೂಂಕ ಹಗೀಗತಕಿ ಎ ಕುಜ್ಜಾಗೆ ಹಗೀಗತಕಿ ಎಕುಜ್ಜಾಗೆ ಎಫದ ಎಕುಜ್ಜಾಯ ಎಫದೆ ಎತಕ್ ಕುದಿಂಗೆ ಹಾಲತ್ ಹಿಸಾಬ ದಿಯೈ ಅಳುಗುಣಮೆಂಗ್ ಎಮ್ಮೆಂಗೆ ಫೇಲಿಯ ಕುಂಕ ಏಯ್ ಅಳುಗುಣಮೆಂಗೆ ಫೇಲಿಯ ಏಯ್ ಎಕುದಿಂಗೆ ಮಸಲೆಯನ್ನು ಆದ ಮಿ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬೇವು ಮಂಗ್ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡು ಇಸ್ನೆಗೆ ಸಬ್ ಪಹರುಗ ಸರ್ಫಸ ಬಲಾಲಾರ್ ಮಿ ಅಳುಗುಣಮೆಂಗ್ ಒಫಿಯುಗೆ ಮೆಂಡೇಟ್ ನೂಕಮ ವೆಸ್ ಫೆನಿವಡಾಂ ಫಾನೆ ಎಹೆನ್ನಮೆಸ್ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡು ಗಬೂಲ್ ಕುರಾಗುತುಗ ದಿವೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಜಿನಾಯಿ ಅದುಲ್ಗೆ ನಿಜಾಮ್ ಬಟ್ಟಂ ಕುರೈಫಾವಾ ಗೊತುಂ ಎ ನಿಜಾಮ್ಗೆ ತೆರೆಗ ಹುರಿ ಮಿಫದ ಗೊಂಜೆಹುಂತ ದೆನೆಗಣೆ ಎಕಂಕನ ನಂಗಳು ಕುರುಮ ಮಸೆಕ್ಕೆ ಕುರುಮಕಿ ಪ್ರೊಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಕುರಂಜೆಹೆ ಕಮೆ ಎಹೆಂಬೀಮ ಅಳುಗಂಡಗೆ ಟೀಮುಂ ಮಿಕಮಂ ಇಸ್ನೆಗಿ ದೆಮ್ಮೆ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡುವೆ ವಾಹಕ ದಕ್ಕಂ ಫೆಶುಮ್ಗೆ ಕುರಿಂ ಮಿ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಮತಿಂ ಮೊಹಿಯುದ್ದೀನ್ಗೆ ದರಿವರುಂ ಕಮವ ಅಶುವಾಯ್ ಈಶ್ ಎ ಫುಮೆಲಿ ಸಂಗಕಿ ಮುಳಿ ದಿವೆಹಿ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಹುರಿಹಾ ಕುದಿಂಗೆ ಫರಾತುಂ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡ್ಮೆಂಗ್ ಎಮ್ಮೆಣ್ಣದ್ದಿಂ ಇಂಜಾರೆ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡ್ಮೆಂಗ್ ಎಮ್ಮೆಣ್ಣ ಹೇಲ ಜಹಾಲಿ ರಂಗಬೀಲೆ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡ್ಮೆಣ್ಣದ್ದಿಂ ಕೋಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಆಕ್ಷನೆ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡುಗೆ ಎದುಮಕಿ ಎ ಸಂಗ್ಗೆ ಅಡ ಆಯಕು ಅಳುಗೊಂಡ್ಮೆಂಗ್ ಮಿಫಶಾ ಮಸೆಕ್ಕತಕಿ ಅಳುಗೊಂಡ್ಮೆಂಗ್ ಕುರಿಮತೀಗ ಮಿಯ ಗಾಂಮಿ ಬೊಡು ಮಸ್ಸಲೆಯಂ ಹಲ್ಲೆಂ ಹೋದೇಣೆ ಗೊತೆ ದೆನೆಗಣೆ e masekke tiye denegatumge masekke tiye emme beflon koddevvun mitaga tiye titbevi mikam hallu hodda devena beflon ikam gabilkan huri beflon algun men emmen sekundiya wasiletten ekko emmen en azumegga algun men hewer ekkot faham masekke koffinama algun menge dina algun menge sakafata fushuru menne ಫಸೇಹ ಕಮಾಯಕು ಹೆಲಿಫೆಲಿವೆ ಉಳುವೆ ಗೊತ್ತ ಗಾಯಂ ಹೇವರ್ ಜಮಾನಿ ಅದಿ ದುನಿಯೆಗೆ ಫೆಂಬರ್ಗೆ ಕೋಟೆ ಫಹಾಲ್ಮಕಿ ನುಕುರವೇಣ ಕಮೆನ್ ನೂಕಂ ಅಳುಗಂಡ ಜಗಿ ಇಜೆತ್ರೆ ಹಾಜರಿಂಗ್ ಅಳುಣ ವಾಹಕ ಮಾ ದಿಯುಕುರಾಕ ನೆಥಿಂಗ್ however before I conclude I would like to say a few words of appreciation to all our partners who are present here. First and foremost, thank you, Dr. Eddie, Mr. Naim, and the entire UNICEF team for the invaluable contribution to this conference and the PGO in general. This conference would not have been possible without your generous support, both financially and technically. If you recall, all this began with just a simple idea I had pitched to you at the end of one of our juvenile justice training sessions. I have always known how committed UNICEF is to support these kind of initiatives, but I also understand that getting us to this amount of assistance, especially when it might not have been originally budgeted for the year at such short notice, was no easy task. I'm sure you and your team would have jumped through quite a few hoops to make this happen. And for that, I thank you, and your entire team once again. Thank you, sir. To all our other partners, local and external, let me take this opportunity to thank you as well for your continued support, both financially and technically. And I sincerely hope that we will continue to benefit from your contributions going forward. To our First Lady, Madam Sajida Mohammed, thank you for being here today and for supporting our efforts to ensure a better future for our children. It was truly an honor and a pleasure to have met you and listened to the inspiring plans you have to champion the rights and well-being of the children of the Maldives. On behalf of the team PGO, I assure you that we are ready and willing to support you in any way we can to ensure that our children inherit a better Maldives. Thank you, madam. Ade mihasabang algonaga wahaka kurkollumaffahu mi conference kantatta rawa hingumuga emme algonda ekko masakke kuri team ge emme isko harka atteru effarakama ba Deputy Prosecutor General Alustaza Aishat Muhammad Hawal Kollana. NMS algon nimam kuring algonaga team hama MFA bahage gotuga algonaga team warab boda shukriya. Wassalamu alaikum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Shukriya PG. Vadantivevi emmeha beflum. Almen National Juvenile Justice ke namuga conference bevunga maqsadaki hagigatuga PG ge wahak fuluga e vidaluvi gota kudakudinga adulga nizam mihara bure harudana kuruma almen mikura maseka itura rangalu kuruma hurikankan denegatun. Almen naki ಹುರಿ ಹಾಯ್ದಾರಕಿ ವೆಸ್ ಮೆಂಡೇಟ್ ತಕೆ ಕಾಂಡೇಳಿಗೆ ಮಸೆಕೆ ಕುರ ಇದಾರಾತಕೆ ಆಳ್ಮೆ ಮಿಕುರ ಮಸೆಕೆ ಕುರ ಗೊತ್ತಗ ತಫಾತಕೆಂ ಹುರದಾನ್ ಗಾಣುನ್ ಮಾಣ ಕುರುಮುಗ ಅದಿ ಆಳ್ಮೆಂ ಎಕಿ ಇದಾರಾತಕುಂ ಅಮಲ್ ಕುರ ಉಸೂಲಿ ಕಂಕಂಗ ವೆಸ್ ತಫಾತಕೆಂ ಹುರದಾನ್ ಎ ನಮ್ವೆಸ್ ಎ ತಫಾತಕ ಎಕುವೆಸ್ ಆಳ್ಮೆಂ ಗುಳಿಗೆ ಮಸೆಕೆ ಕುರುಮ್ಗೆ ಮುಹಿಮ್ಮುಕಂ ಪೀಜಿಗೆ ವಾಹಕ್ ಫುಳುಕ ಫಾಹಕ ಕುರವ್ವಾಫ್ ಮಿ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಫೆಶುನಿ ಮಿಯದು ನಮವೆಸ್ ಮಿ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬೇನುವ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ದಿರಾಸಾತ ಕುರುಂಗೆ ಇತುರುಂ ತಫಾಸಿಸಾ ಬೆಕ್ಕುರುಂಗೆ ಮಸೆಕೆ ಅಳುಮೆ ಮೀಗೆ ದೆಮಹೆಂ ಹಾದುವಸ್ ಕುರಿಂ ಫೆಶಿ ಎ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಕಾರುದಾಸ್ತ ಹುಷಹೆಳುಮ ಏಗ ಹಿಮೆನೆ ವಕಿ ಕಾಂತತ್ತಕ ಗುಳೆ ಗೊತುಂ ತಫ್ಸೀಲಿ ಗೊತೆಗ ಮಶ್ವರಾಕ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ರಿಕಮೆಂಡೇಶನ್ ತ ಹುಷಹೆಳುಂ ಮಿ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಾ ಕುರಿಯದ್ದಾನೆ ಮಿ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಾ ಮ್ಯಾಗಂಡು 4 ದಾಯಿರಾಯಕುಂ ಕುರೈಫಾವ ಇಲ್ಮಿ ದಿರಾಸಾತಕ ಕಾರುದಾಸ್ತಂ ಹುಷಹೆಳುಮ ಹಮಜ ಹಿಫಾವೆ ಎಗೊತುಂ ಕ್ರೈಮ್ ಪ್ರಿವೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅರ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟರ್ವೆನ್ಷನ್ mi key area ge presentations taken adi paper tan husha heligendan mi kudakudin kukkurum ge kurin kushuge vettan husha helu man hori maguta bandukur magule ilmi dirasa atake devana daira ki prosecution and diversion mi kudakudin ge matcha dawwa kuruma ekudin na diversion ge fursat dinuma gule dirasi kardastake timana daira ki rehabilitation and reintegration mi kukkura kudakudin ಇಸ್ಲಾಹು ಕುರುಮ ಎಕುದಿಂ ಅಲುಂಗಬುರ ಮುಜ್ತಮಯ ನೆರುಮಾಗುಳೇಗತುನ್ ತಯಾರ್ ಕೊಫಾವ ದಿರಾಸಿ ಕರ್ದಾಸ್ತಕೆ ಹತರುವಣ ದಾಯಿರಾಕಿ ಕೊಲಾಬ್ರೇಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಮೀ ಕುಡಕುದಿಂ ಕುಕ್ಕುರುಮುನ್ ದುರುಕುರುಮಗ ಮುಜ್ತಮೌಗೆ ದೌರ ಮುಜ್ತಮೌಗೆ ಬ್ಯಾವಿರು ಮಾಗುಳೇಗತುನ್ ಎಕುಲವಾಲಾಫಾವ ದಿರಾಸಿ ಕರ್ದಾಸ್ತಕೆ ಮೀ ದಿರಾಸಾತ ಕುರುಮ ತಫಾಸಿಸಾ ಬೆಕ್ಕುರುಮ adi hama ege iturun mi dirasi karudastan ekulawalumga bair wadagennevi idaratakun technical team taka PG offihuga technical team takuge minne maseketa mi furusatga prosecutor general ge faratunna adi muli prosecutor general ge offihuga namuga shukur dannawa hasa gotegga PG offihuga technical team taka shukur dannawa mi technical team takum wani fanni dirasata fanni karudasta dirasako fact check kurumuga warabura masekettake ko adi waragina wagut maseke kurawa mi emmeha masekettaka PG offihuga technical team taka huriha befronna warang has shukret dannawa mi conference kuriya dairu mi conference terega panel discussion taken alumen eba kuriya genda ege terega fanni befununge panel discussion taka kudakudinge adulge nizamge terega sharui dairage daura gule panel discussion tan himene hama e aiku teacherunna belenverinnan hasa panel discussion take eba himene belenverinnan hasa panel discussion ga belenveriyage haisiyatun 2001 raisu jumhuriyage ambikamalun madam sajida muhammad bair wada gannawa alume mi masekatuga first lady bair wada gannawa kami mi masekatun natija nerevene kama alumen kura ummidu ituruwa kame mi masekatuga adi conference feshumge rasmiyatuga madam bair wada gannawa kamattaka prosecutor general la offihuge huriha muwazzafunge faratun waran hasa shukret dannawa hama egotun dawlatge wazirunna muassasatakuge isverin mi conference ke eki session takuga bair wada gannawa kamattaka emmeha beflunna waran hasa shukret dannawa almen kudakudinge adulge nizamge wahaka dakka iru hadan kuranjehe emme muhimmu kamaki alugon men mini muntan nimmani nuata alugon men mi mashwarata kuriya gendani alugon men navurema vulnerable group aka gule gotunka ekudinge hunnani alugon menge bodati mihunge hunna fada ihsas takennu ekudinge visnu ves alugon menna mulin tafat ekudinnaki adives diriulun daskura mundakudin ekudinge kurimagge uluma gulunta battan koddeni miharu dimawa kankama halettaku ehenkamu kudakudinge adulga nizam furihama kurunga wahaka alugon men dakka iru ekudinge visnuma hiyala himenumge beenun terikan intihaya bodu kudakudinna guligen nimma nimmuntakuga ekudinna basgunumuge fursat dinumaki gaanun wes dakku ade magu mi conference ga voices of young people ge namuga panel discussion ne kuriya gendeven mi panel ge terein kudakudinge adulge nizamge maseketta ekudinge tasavvura eggota alumen saafegin dana mi conference terega dekeve wahagatakge matcha policy recommendation karudahe tayar kurma bani hamajahifa alumen edeni kudakudinge kiyala fikur wes reflect wa gota conference ge recommendation ta kandeligen diu mi policy recommendation karudas ekulevigen daani kudakudinge adulge nizam ga himene idarataka academia beflunge ves baverivu maiku mi karudahuga huri kankan husheheluma ega himene kankan tanfiz kuruma waki idaratakun ada kurane daur tafsil gotegga mi karudahuge alon men liana prosecutor general ga wahak fulga vitalvi fadai mi kankan tanfiz vegen da gotge follow up alon men hadamun gen dana follow up meeting ta alon men bavwana ehen gotaka dannawanama mi tinduhuge conference ge mi tinduhaki mi conference ge rasmi ba conference ge recommendation tanfiz wanden mi conference digude migen dane alunge duayaki alun men mikura maseketuga Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala baraka levum wassalam alaikum. Now I invite UNICEF representative to the Maldives, Dr. Edward Adai, to address the audience. Dr. Eddie.
Thank you very much, Madam Aishas. Your Excellency, Madam Sajida Mohammed, the First Lady of Republic of Maldives, good morning and thank you for showing up for children. Anytime you show up for our children, one of the experts, the quotation from one of the experts of leadership comes to mind, and that is leadership is not about positions. It is a series of behaviors. Madam, through your behavior and what you do, we see your commitment for children. And on behalf of the children of Maldives, I'd like to say a very, very big thank you to you. And with a lot of humility, I also want to encourage you not to be tired because the work is not finished. Thank you very much, Madam. Ustaz Abbas Sharif, Prosecutor General, thank you for convening us. As you rightly said, it started with just a short conversation. My admiration for you and for your team is that you have been able to translate intent into action. The way forward is to move from intent into action into impact. I look forward to working with you, and UNICEF is behind you as you lead us into making a difference in the juvenile justice system. Honorable ministers, ambassadors and high commissioners, my old friend, Commissioner of Police and his team, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, assalamu alaikum, and happy Children's Day. For me, Children's Day is an opportunity to celebrate progress. It's also an opportunity to take stock of the unfinished business. The investments of our forebears have brought us so far. It is now our time to shape the future. And the future is in our children. It's therefore my pleasure to join all of you on Children's Day. And I know there are a series of national activities going on, but for today, we are taking a very important step forward and focusing on the juvenile justice system in the Maldives. As we reflect on the juvenile justice system, I'd like to start with just one message. And you'll forgive me for my very bad Divehi. I feel so strongly about it that I'd rather say it in Divehi. And sometimes I ask for help from the audience to help me, but today I'll try. My core message is Kome Kujaga, Kome Kujaka. Divana Furusathe. Every child deserves a second chance. And for me, every child deserves an opportunity. So that is the message I bring to us today as we look at the juvenile justice system. Indeed, UNICEF is very proud and also humbled to co-host this 2025 Juvenile Justice Conference under the leadership of the Prosecutor General's Office. This event reflects our shared commitment to a justice system that puts children, the best interests of all our children at the center. We say best interest because the best interest of the children is in the best interest of families. When our children are not safe, nothing matters. When our children are sick, nothing matters. When our children can't go to school, nothing matters. The best interest of children is not a theoretical construct. It's in the best interest of families. But the best interest of children is also in the best interest of the countries. If we get it right for children, we get it right for our country, and we get it right for generations. So the justice system that puts children at the center is a justice system that is good for the country. We are gathered here today to celebrate the commendable progress that the Maldives has made in advancing children's rights. We have a very robust Child Rights Protection Act, a solid Juvenile Justice Act, and indeed a very progressive one that is aligned with the Convention of the Rights of the Child. These acts rightly emphasize prevention, diversion, and rehabilitation. We are celebrating the progress of this country because of a number of reasons, and let me highlight a few. The first is commitment and leadership. This country has come very far since 1978. Very few countries have made so much progress over the last 50 years. We have to celebrate it. Commitment is good, but not enough. Our forebears have invested in child rights. They've invested resources in child rights. We need to continue investing it. But I want to note a singular investment that has brought us so far, and that is investment in institutions. Your country has invested in robust institutions. And present here today are the different institutions that have helped us come so far, and the different institutions that would help us go into the future. So investing in your institutions is the right thing to do, alongside investing in your leadership. The truth is that in Maldives today, the context is shifting. Things are changing. Some might say it's a result of development. The reality is that with rapid development come new challenges. Today, only 44.5% of students move to higher secondary school. 1 in 5 young people are not in education, employment, or training. This situation increases vulnerability, exposing children to exploitation, risky behavior, and sometimes involvement in crime. That is why I say every child deserves a second chance. When the juvenile justice system fails to respond effectively, the result is not just a policy gap. It's a failure of protection, a failure of children, a failure of families, and a failure of the nation. When the juvenile system fails to respond effectively, we risk re-traumatizing the already vulnerable children and pushing them further into cycles of harm. These are not problems one agency can fix. They affect a child's entire world and a child's future. They affect a child at home. They affect a child's schooling. They affect a child's health. And they affect the child's safety. Every child deserves a second chance. And that's why this conference brings all actors together to identify cross-sector solutions, but more importantly, to work together. We must always remember that children come into conflict with the law, not because they want to. And indeed, some of them is a consequence of delinquent behavior. These children, in some cases, are often victims of deprivation, of broken homes, of poverty, of violence, and of neglect. They are outliers. What they need is support, not condemnation. So how do we break the cycles? Because this can become a vicious cycle for the children, for their families, for their communities, and for our country. If we're just for today, that's okay, but it's also for generations, for the future. So let me offer 4 thoughts, simple thoughts, and I offer them with humility on breaking this cycle. Sometimes I call this a frozen accident. A child that comes into conflict with the law is likely to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. So we have to reverse the cycle. The first, in my view, is to invest in making our communities safe. If our communities are not safe, our efforts on child rights will be totally undermined. Today, when I look at social media, I see public support. Sometimes among some people, and I should be careful how much I interpret social media, I see public support for punishment, for condemning these children. I get it. Because when our communities are not safe, nothing matters. When we have gangs in our community, nothing matters. So unless we invest in public safety, our work on the juvenile justice system will fail. It's a foundational issue. So thank you, Commissioner, for your work on community policing. We need to institutionalize, we need to scale it, we need to deepen it. The second is to recognize that children are very suggestive. They are developing. They have evolving potential. Children are copycats. They learn from us as adults. So investing in prevention should go hand in hand with tackling adult exploitation of children, alongside helping families to be places for nurturing children. Third, and I'm looking at my brother here from the prison service. Third is we need to take children who come into contact with the law out of the juvenile justice system. If you keep them there, they learn from hardened criminals. We call it diversion. We need to take them out. I always say that if you take people and put them, sick people, and put them into hospital, the biggest risk is that they become sicker. That's the same thing when you put children in a criminal justice system. We have a responsibility to take them out. We have to divert them away from the criminal justice system. Your society will be irresponsible if it only diverts. Concurrently, we have to invest in their rehabilitation. So, Your Excellency, the First Lady, we need your help on investing in rehabilitating children, diverting them, advocacy issue, but rehabilitating children. There are behavioral issues that we need to deal with. But more importantly, we need to reintegrate them into society. So that's the third. You divert, you rehabilitate, you reintegrate. And these are difficult issues, but they are issues that reflect the priorities that we need to take forward. And the fourth, which is the last, is we need to skill them. We need to continue to educate them. We need to put them back on the path of development. So I hope that this conference will reflect on these issues and look for practical solutions, but actionable steps that we can take on this journey. Indeed, UNICEF welcomes the government's efforts in this direction, and we are committed to working under your leadership to ensure that the systems of this country remain child-focused, they continue to remain safe, and they are accountable. It's also my hope that over the next 3 days, our discussion will generate bold, actionable ideas, and the resulting policy paper will guide us as we take the steps on this journey. Let me close by emphasizing that real, lasting changes requires collective effort. A child cannot be divided, and their challenges demand a unified response. So let's work together to make every child, or to give every child, the chance to grow, the chance to heal, and the chance to thrive. Because that's what each and every one of us wants for our children. Komekujaka Divana Furusate. Every child deserves a second chance. Every child deserves an opportunity. I thank you for your attention and wish all of us a happy Children's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. On behalf of the Prosecutor General's Office, we extend our sincere thanks to Dr. Edward Edai for UNICEF's continued support of the National Juvenile Justice Conference. Your advocacy and commitment to children's rights inspires us all. We deeply appreciate your leadership in helping shape a more just and compassionate system for children and youth of this country. Thank you. I now invite the chief guest of the conference, First Lady, Madam Sajida Muhammad, to address the audience. Madam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Prosecutor General Ustaz Abbas Sharif, UNICEF Representative to Maldives, Dr. Edward Adai, Cabinet Ministers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. First and foremost, let me send my love and best wishes to all our children as we celebrate National Children's Day today. My prayers are with each of you today and every day. Distinguished participants, it is truly an honor to join you here today and to share my thoughts on this very important subject for us, for our children, and for the future of this nation. The topic of this conference, Empowering Change, Advancing Juvenile Justice, and Safeguarding Children's Rights, targeting to strengthen our juvenile justice system, is indeed a milestone in our criminal justice and child protection systems. Child protection is not just a topic for me, but it is something I carry with me as a mother, as a woman, and as someone who believes that the way we treat our children defines who we are. As President Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." Distinguished participants, literature proves that offending starts at a young age, stemming from abandonment, violence, and abuse faced by children in their formative years. This is not a prevalence only in the Maldives, but a global phenomenon and an absolute reason why crime prevention programs should start and focus on juveniles. The truth is that when we look closely at the children who end up in conflict with the law, what we mostly see is not defiance, but damage, not deliberate bad choices, but deep hurt, not malice, but helplessness and cry for help. I cannot help but think of the state of the child who is forced to wander late in the night in searching for protection, yet finds perpetrator who robs them of their soul and their future. A perpetrator who would use them to peddle drugs or recruit them into a gang where the child would find his identity, which the society refused to give. My heart cries for the girl who is robbed of her childhood, who cries begging the abuser to stop, unable to figure out whether she is being raped or violated, whether she is at a fault or has any right to protection. My heart also goes out to those children who find cause in offending because they got no justice, no protection, no a life which taught them otherwise. We see it all too often here in the Maldives, a child caught with drugs whose father has battled the same addiction, a teenager in court for violence whose earliest memories of violence at home, a boy turned into a thief or want of money for sustenance of addiction. Day in and day out, we see children entering the system. But we always see is they are victim first and that they are not the first in their family to be there. This vicious cycle needs to be broken, for too many of our children are inheriting trauma. They are born into cycles of abuse, of neglect, and when they reach out for help and for safety, far too often the response they get is the justice system. Help, which is measured by what society thinks is just, rather than a redress for the injustice they have faced in life. We must get to the children before they reach the courtroom, before they are treated as problems, before they get used to the pain that they adopt a lifestyle of breaking laws and hurting other people. Put in more straightforward terms, before society makes them harsh, cruel, and broken. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as you deliberate in the 2 next days, I urge you to recognize an important fact that many of the children we call offenders today were victims first. Victims of broken homes, victims of neglect, victims of rape and all kinds of abuse, victims of society that looked the other way for too long. We owe them better. We owe them a real path to healing, a real chance at life, because children are not lost cause. I wish to here quote the life of a boy who was arrested by the police few years back at the age of 14. He was the youngest person who was implicated in a murder. My concern here is not only because he was arrested for murder at such a young age, but for the journey he had taken in the justice system, which drawn him in, till he had no hope for a future he deserved as our child. Statistics shows that he got in touch with the authorities 191 times before he was arrested for murder at the age of just 14. This begs the question, how many chances did we ignore to intervene and give this child the chance at the life he deserved? I wish to also here quote the life of a 15-year-old girl who was convicted of a crime which the law prescribed some years back, but one which was a result of her being raped. Hers was a story of a girl who was victim of sexual abuse for years, never got justice, no protection, but came out labeled as an offender and a convict with a criminal record. A huge outcry and effort by concerned authorities and international partners led to the overturn of the sentence, yet her scars remain, those from the abuse and those of being part of the criminal justice system, police investigations and courtroom, and those she got from being arrested and institutionalized. These stories from so many hundreds portray the life of our children go through, which shows them no path but that of offending. Distinguished participants, I cannot reiterate enough the role of schools and teachers in the protection of children. It is very often that a child who is being abused or being violated will portray that in school. Maybe not in so many words, but their behavior and performance in school. To the teachers and the educationalists here today, it is my request that you take such symptoms seriously and ensure that any such child gets attention and help he or she needs. In the same manner, I cannot say loud enough how important it is for the parents to stand up for their children, for the fathers who seem to think that it is all right to let the mother bear the burden alone. Let me tell you in absolute terms that it is not. No child asks for them to be brought into this world or choose their parents. It is our decision to bring them into the world. Let's live up to this responsibility we undertook, and let's not let them down. Distinguished participants, offering ways out of the criminal justice system is just as important as saving children before they enter the system. Opening pathways out through rehabilitation, education, and training to become functional citizens not only enhances their chances at life, but also increases national productivity while bringing the demands and cost of justice system. If one is to look at Maldives scenario, the Maldives incarceration rate is one of the highest in the world. A study done in 2019 by UNDP found that the Maldives imprisons its people 15 times more than some neighboring countries with a higher rate of violent crime. The study also found that reports going back to 2003 has examined issues of justice, imprisonment, and drugs, and that change have been brought. We have spent many years building systems such that today we have several institutions working on child protection, sharing almost 1 billion rupiah of the state budget. Laws have been put into place. We have signed international conventions and made commitments too. Yet today, In 2025, we are equally, if not more concerned about the rise in crime, the increase in the intensity of crime, and change in crime patterns for the worse. We worry that the age of first crime remains low, sounding the alarm that we need to be a society who acts beyond the paper that laws and policies are written on. We must move beyond words and show our will through practice. I know that it's not easy and that real change takes work. Yet this is not an area where we have a choice if we are to prosper as a civilized society. This again is one more reason why this conference becomes so important. Today, we have here all the stakeholders of juvenile justice system, and it is your mission to identify what is going wrong, where the net gets broken, through which crack the child slips, and which door an abuser walks out of. Distinguished participants, a strong juvenile justice system is not one that punishes quickly. It is one that protects consistently, one that surrounds at-risk children with support, education, and opportunity, one that opens doors out for those unfortunate children who have crossed in, one that understands that not every child learns the same way or grows at the same pace, one that leaves room for second chances and third chances and prevent that at-risk child or youth from becoming a murderer or drug trafficker or violent sex offender. I'm not asking for impunity, but protection and rehabilitation and ways to enable a child to stay away from the criminal justice system and grow up as any other child. A strong and cohesive juvenile justice system can give them the chance they need to be functional citizens. Children in conflict with the law are children who are crying for help, maybe not in the words that we are used to hearing, but in their own language. Let us, as adults, be the people who accept that there is no one who has not faltered once or fallen a few times, and let's take leadership in giving them that chance they need. Distinguished participants, if this gathering or any other group of people are to come up with a single suggestion in a juvenile justice system, it would be child protection, ensuring that each child gets the protection they need, the chances that every child in our society gets. Just as we celebrate our golden medal winners, surely we owe the same opportunities to the not-so-fortunate of our children. I believe that Maldives should not be a society where a child's success depends on his or her luck. I believe that by born equal as Allah decreed, there would be children among those unfortunate and in the margins who could be the leaders of tomorrow if given the opportunity they deserve. Distinguished participants, let's be a society where abusers do not feel protected, but feel the full weight of justice. Let's not be people who look the other way when children are abused or neglected. Instead, let's be the society who hears the silent cry for help in the defense of juveniles, where every child feels safe and belong to and grow up to realize their dreams and the future they deserve. Let us be the society who is willing to give a different-minded youth a second chance in life, a safe and decent chance before punishing them. For the best justice system is the system that is not needed, on that no child has to enter. May Allah protect our children from all harm and bless them with happiness and prosperity. Ameen. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the organizers and all participants, I extend our heartfelt thanks to First Lady, Madam Sajida Mohammed, for the insightful and inspiring opening remarks. Your words have set a meaningful tone for this Juvenile Justice Conference, highlighting the importance of collaboration, compassion, and reform in shaping a more just and supportive system for our youth. We deeply appreciate your commitment and presence at this important gathering. Thank you, First Lady. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to the National Juvenile Justice Conference. My name is Almas Mubarak. I work at the Prosecutor General's office. Since the beginning of my career as a prosecutor, I have primarily worked on juvenile crimes and crimes against children. It is truly an honor to be here today among so many dedicated individuals to speak on the critical issues surrounding juvenile justice. Before I go into the legal frameworks and procedures, I want to begin by reflecting on what juvenile justice truly means. I know many of you are quite familiar with the term, but the realities surrounding it are far more complex than the term alone suggests. At its simplest, juvenile justice refers to the legal system that deals with children who are accused of committing crimes. Children, I'm sure you'll agree with me, are among the most vulnerable members of any society. They rely on others for care, protection, and guidance. They also learn from their environment, from what they see and what they experience. That is why we often say that children are a product of their environment. This phrase carries weight. It reminds us that the environment shapes a child's behavior, beliefs, and emotional well-being. Around the world, efforts are being made every day to ensure children grow up protected, loved, and safe. We often view children as innocent, kind, and vulnerable. But interestingly, when criminal acts are involved, these perceptions become harder to reconcile. What I mean by this is, for example, when a child becomes a victim of crime, our response is usually one of empathy and understanding. But when a child commits a crime, we often struggle to apply the same compassion. We hesitate to view them through the lens of development, and instead we rush to judgment. Now, the question of why children commit crimes and how we can prevent it does not have a simple answer. The causes of juvenile delinquency vary across countries and even within communities. Today, I won't speak about other nations. I will speak about the realities in the Maldives. A 2012 study designed specifically to investigate this issue found that the primary drivers of juvenile delinquency in the Maldives include childhood trauma, neglect, dysfunctional family structures, poverty, and peer pressure. By the end of this 3-day conference, I believe you will gain a deeper understanding of how these factors contribute to delinquent behavior, as you will hear directly from some of the leading experts in the field. Personally, I remain firm in my belief that providing children with positive, nurturing environments is the most powerful tool we have to prevent crime. I say this not just from theory, but from my own experience. I have met many young adults, both victims and offenders, and standing here today, I can tell you that almost every young delinquent I've met has a story of survival behind them. This is not just a theory. You don't have to take my word for it. Our own data actually confirms it as well. In 2024, the highest number of juvenile crimes reported involved 5 young offenders, all of whom were previously flagged as victims in our criminal justice system. This is why we must never see a child as a criminal first and a child later. We must reverse that lens. See the child first, understand their vulnerabilities, and always work to protect and support them before moving toward accountability. This also underscores the need for cooperation between the child protection system and the juvenile justice system to address root causes and prevent delinquency from the outset. I ask you to keep this in mind as I now turn to the legal landscape governing juvenile justice in the Maldives. In 2019, 2 landmark laws came into force: the Child Rights Protection Act and the Juvenile Justice Act. With these laws, the minimum age of criminal responsibility, or the MACR, was set at 15 years. This is not an arbitrary number. It was determined based on child development and the underlying causes of juvenile offending. The importance of MACR is that it recognizes that children under 15 do not have the intellectual maturity to fully understand the impact of their actions. They cannot comprehend criminal procedures. Therefore, they cannot be formally charged or held criminally responsible within the juvenile justice system. Instead, they are referred to social services under a rehabilitative framework, not a punitive one. The focus shifts from punishment to protection and welfare. As such, the juvenile justice system applies to children aged 15 and above, and that is where I will now focus. The Maldivian juvenile justice system is built on restorative, rehabilitative, and rights-based principles. The 2 key pillars of the system are diversion and restorative justice. Diversion means steering children away from the formal court process using alternative measures. Restorative justice involves repairing harm through inclusive dialogue between victims, offenders, and the community. Now, let me briefly walk you through the key institutions involved in the juvenile justice system. The Maldives Police Service are usually the first point of contact for a child in conflict with the law. They are responsible for criminal investigations and have discretions to apply pretrial diversion or issue warnings, cautions, or even release without action. The Prosecutor General's office carry out all prosecution of children, and we too have the authority to apply pretrial diversion. It's worth noting here that while the law mandates the police to consider diversion before sending a case for prosecution, it does not clearly distinguish between police level and PGO level diversion, a gray area that can affect decision making. The juvenile court holds exclusive jurisdiction over juvenile offenses. However, it is also important to note that the drug court still retains authority for drug-related cases involving minors. The Department of Juvenile Justice functions under the Ministry of Homeland Security and Technology and is primarily responsible for the rehabilitation of children in conflict with the law. Probation and correctional officers monitor children serving non-custodial measures and also play a role in detention settings. The Child and Family Protection Service, although not recognized as a formal justice stakeholder, plays a vital role in assisting vulnerable children and families. The Ministry of Education plays a key role in protecting a child's right to education, especially in reintegration efforts. Taken together, the Child Rights Protection Act and the Juvenile Justice Act demonstrates that our legal system aims to strike a balance between public safety and compassion, always keeping the child's best interest at the center. Now, if I may draw your attention to the screen, I'd like to walk you through some important statistics. Let's take a look at the number of juvenile offenses investigated and prosecuted before and after the Juvenile Justice Act came into force. The figures you see for 2020 represent the situation before the law came into effect. The subsequent figures demonstrate the changes that occurred afterward. As you can see, there has been a significant drop in cases being prosecuted after the law. While we cannot yet draw firm conclusions as to why this trend has occurred, it is possible that investigating authorities are increasingly utilizing diversionary measures as the law has intended. One of the main reasons why we have convened this conference is to understand these trends. We need to critically assess the juvenile justice system and identify any legal or institutional gaps in how the law is being applied. With your insight and commitment, I believe we can develop meaningful evidence-based solutions to address these gaps. So my dear colleagues, let us now begin this vital shared work. Thank you. I now welcome international child protection expert, Dr. Maria Ali, to the podium for her keynote address. Dr. Maria Ali.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Raisul Jumhuriya Amkhavlum, Madam Sajida Mohammed, Emmeha Minister, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, and the resident representative, Dr. Enver Edai. Assalamu alaikum. I will conduct this. I was going to speak in Divehi, but my slides are going to be in English, so everyone can follow. And also, I do have a couple of activities that are interactive, so I hope that you will participate to get a better insight into what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about trauma-informed practice. What is trauma-informed practice? Divehin. That the alunmeng miharbi bane palala eruga kom war boda aniyaga wahkes tekkidze. Aniya vegenne mihis habakudin annane. Ehemema tahammal kuravi fahori. Adi tahammal kuramun da gellun take dene gane. Ea farwa eddino. A trauma-informed practice. Then every Nangalab Sargon Minute Tarjama Kurevidan Kandegadet me conference Nimiganda Varakabas. Mema alone me the Balalam me Uleni Poda Kobato trauma yaki. Kobato me gelumaki. Me baski dan Ekamalagon Menakang me mane nege. Then kobato kuda iruga libe gellun takaki adverse childhood experiences. Then eke fahung algon memi balalani kobato trauma informed practices aki juvenile justice system geterega. Then me fettumunge kuriga miedaki kudakudinge duas mema huriha kudinna ves alod ane kudakudinge duhuge tahuniya aruang. Then hama algon mem miha muhimu duhe fahaga kura iruga alon men handan kollanjehe alon men navara gag Palestinuge gina kudim mihar tibikie ves gotaka ufalegga enno ehmem algon men e huriha kudinna ves algon menge dua alon medu ene emmena ves sama mi ekan kuravwane kamang hitanga ara ehmema fettumge kuriga mihar trauma fettumge kuriga alon men balalanga ves tesuale ngeto ehem vima miharo arane me scan kura code ehem vima mi scan kollavva faha mi desuala jawab magutum fenna khal gotka kobab naushad ehem mihar me suala miharo alon me benwani misalaka engeto the world is misalaka the world is happy place nuni duniye ku ufaveri taneke duniye ki biruweri taneke kihinapaya algon menna komme mihaka ves duniye fennani tafatu gotaka ehem me mama e suala jawab devvima ham wagutun aran engeto cruel messed up beautiful a scary place, complicated, an adventure, controversial for living, safe and promising, disappointing. Okay, ebule detto miga var positive kantatta ke ves adi tankole negative tantam ves ebure miga enge ehem mi den anna sual Adivaseva Aradat have wonderful places, Sarafi. Halaboli, beautiful, but beautiful. Happy and sad, him balancing a bullet. Okay, he got that the ding and a swala dama. I am. I am a happy person. Nuni, I am smart. Nuni, I am lazy. Nuni, I am hannaki me hinghamaji hunna miheke hannaki varak energy hunna miheke egota. I am blessed, tired. Batman was a content, sleepy, emotional, responsible, kind, Madam Sajdaga, Wahak Purusabet, meet a fahu and nanning it, meet a fahu. Ah. Miharo, Alugan by me, Desuala, me Javabu, Dini, meet in Hadwache, Youngeta me, Kina me, slide badal collani. Miharo, Alun me, Desualo, me, Kurita, that I am only the world, I, Kina to me, Fenani, the world is. Miharo, Alugan men Asuga, emme tutto iru, Kagaka umurun thing aharuga, eba ufede tim message. Tim message me ufedeni emme karim balahatta miha e mammaya vappaya mamaya mi huriya emmen alugonmen mi balahatta gotong alugonmen naki kudairuga bodu ihusas bondi eddetto abdus rohe nuni upavias ves detto varak baharangale ellava heme var bodu ihusas bondi alugonmen naki ehemmima e umuruga mamba fanna ballanti be mihon ijaba de gotung alugonmen nang alugonmen daswani ves Alugonmen Dunia Fendago daswanives. Ehemihuna Muamala Kuran daswanives. Ehemima, me think he message a key, mega himene the message. Ingeta, Emem, come Kujakus Rome for Tara Alugonmen Nagafia, Noni Kujaka Taduji, was a Amhange Kujaya, Rangal Oga Terikong, Ala Levizia, mi ufedeni, Ma Balahatan mihung ebtibe. Maraka Terikuran miha bute. Adi ahannaki mihun lobi va aguhuri miheke. Ehemi ma mi thim message umurun thing aharuga alugon menge mi ufedeni. Then every pahung mi thim message harudana vamung annani. Then haradana vamung asa alugon men bodui me sama mi message varang adiga alugon menge hashikanuga ashagane phonani. Ahannaki mihun lobi van miheke. Ahannaki fudi furi miheke. दुनिया की रक्का तेरी तने के आहन्ना एबूटे फुर्सत वैस बैवरो मी जॉब के फुर्सत किए वो मुझे फुर्सत कैवनी कुरान मी है वैस रंगालो एबूटे में म फुर्सत मी हुरी हाँ इच्छे मी 10 मनी हाँ खुदा उमुरेगा मी हारुदा नावनी मी म देंग मी हारुदा ना करनूली बिचिया देतो मी ट्रोमा है मी किए इच्छे मी अन्ननी Miharo, Alugon men balala iruga. Miharo, Alugon men UNICEF ke Belleniveri program Ministry of Education agulingen. What a baver member fan adima with Jimidia dolo harterega. Emes Alugon men navara bodang enguno me member fan na kudina mi onna gulung harudana wakama vanya bodu kame dimavias ekudina ekamu araganeve. Duniego uleng eba enge ye tahammal kureve rangala. Then Miharo and a Alugon by Mesalakan emme tutto iruga. Nuhunna the Wahaka de Keka. Ehem Wahakun the Kenyaki, Ekamakam Bamba Fandang again that Miharo eroni napi hadivegene. Miharo eroni hunu egene. Ehemima, Alugon memmi Wahaka dakani kudinna, Alugon menge hissa behe bang. Ehen Dr. Alan Shaw me bunani. Alugon menge hissa behe bayemi guleni. Ehmem Alugon membe sama komme mihakos miharus wahaka dakkairuga Alugon mem balani mi ane karakateri ma rakkateri mihe ba wahaka dakka office teregos mi rakkateri heye ham egota kuda kudim system tere vanna irugas ekudim ves balani mi rakkateri tanen heye abandus Alugon menge sikudim balani rakkateri kalli beto den mi hunna mi gulu Alugon men kudrati gotum ves hedifa mi hunnani mi hunna guleng. The mere do come color nudanang ha detail connect attachment relationships aka. Mere the mulani hang kameg gadetto. Me had a trauma. Alugon men dictionary balaruga dictionary infennani commes kala aniya nuni farugande. Ekamko kobato nafsani gotumiti. Kia dene gotki. Nafsani gotum vijja Alugon men komme mihaka vis kurimat lanji dan bodu kamaka. Ekamko komme kamakon gellu mennuwe. Asu Alugon menge hashiganda ken nuwavaru kame vijjiya astu gellum vani. E vendane mammya bappya misalaka varivim kama vis. එකම ඒ වරීගේ තෙරෙන් වෙස් කුදින් රංගලන් තයාර කොක්ගෙන් කුදින්නම් එගේ ඕගාතිරි ගොතකන් එකන් එංගොස්සියා ඒ කුදින්න ලිබේ ගෙල්ලුම් කුඩවාන එහෙම මිහාර ට්‍රෝමාගේ වාහක දක්කා ඉරුග පර මුහිම් මුදත්තෝ මි එගේ මිලෙවල්ල එහෙම මිහාර මියති ට්‍රෝමාගේ දෙවත්තර එංගෙත අලුගොන් මෙන්න එංගේ ඩොක්ටර් පෙරීගේ මසෙක්කදොන් ඒ නියුරෝ සයින්ටිස්ටා සයිකෝതെරපි මේ එක්ස්පර්ට් ඒ බෙෆ්ලා ඉදාලනි එබූටේ ස්මෝල් ටී ට්‍රෝමාය බිග් ටී ට්‍රෝමාය මිහාතන දිවහි රාජ්‍යක වර ගිනා අලුගොන් මෙන්න මි දෙක්කනි බිග් ටී ට්‍රෝමාගේ වාහක බිග් ටී ඒ මිසාලක කුඩ කුදින්න ලිබේ ජින්සී ගෝනා නුනි ගෙවෙෂි අනියා දෙකම ඒකතරේක හිමනේ සුනාමි එරීරුවස් අනික කොවිඩ් වෙස් එයම බොඩු ටී ට්‍රෝමාය එහෙම මීන් හම් ගෙල්ලොන් ලිබේන කුදින්න දෙම්මියති ස්මෝල් ටී ට්‍රෝමාය කි වර කුදි මින්වරකුන් එකම අබදු අන්ඩ කන්තත්ත ඒගේ තෙරේක මිසාලක කුජ්ජකු බුලි අබදු කොරවේකම වඤ්ඤා ඒ කුදින්නගේ ගෙල්ලොන් ලිබේ හරිගඩ ඒ අබදු එකම ගෝලෙන්ජි හේති දෙම්මි අන්න නිදත්ත හම ඔෆීස් ඔෆියු අලුගොන් මෙන් උලේරුගස් මිසාල කමර උන්දගු ಹಾಲತೆ ගොලෙන්ජි හිජ්ජි අයෙන් එබ උන්දගුවේ හරිගඩ කොම්මෙ දු කොෆිය දාවස් බිරුගනේ දියාමස් එහා බොඩක මසෙක්කත වෙස් නොකරවේ තෙන් හම ඒගොත මියති දත්ත අලුගොන් දෙම්මෙ දෙක්කි කල මෑම් ෆෑන්නා මි ඔන්න ගොලෝ තෙන් බර ගිනාන් එබ අඩු ඉවේ අලුගොන් මිහාර තෙරපි කවුන්සලින් කාලෙච්චි දේති මම්ම රුලියාස්ථාන්ති නුකෙරිකින්නේ මියොලනි මිහාරෝ කියවම් බේනුමනි ඒකවුන්ටින්නේ කවුන්සිලෙන් නෝනේ එහෙම්ස් බුණන් නුකෙරිගෙන් එහෙම ඒක එබුලේ තකමස් උන්තගුලේ එහෙම ඒ කොම්මස් කහල කම වෙෆයෝති අනික මිහාර දෙමපිරින් වරිගෙන් එහෙන් මේ දොම්මම්මේ ගන්න හිසාබු නෝනි දොම්බප්පේ ගන්න හිසාබෝ ඒ දෙගේගේ කුදින්න තෆාත් කරවේ එවස් සම නැත්ත අන්නානේ මි ස්මෝල් ටී එකම කොයි සම ගින දුස් වාවරකම් හැම ඒති බොඩුවම් මුන්දානේ එහෙන් බොඩුවම් මුන්දාවරකම් හැම හිතන් ගරන් මරකි මොහෙම මිහෙන් නුනේ මරකි ලෝබ්වා මිහෙන් නුනේ මරකි බේකාර මිහෙකේ එහෙම මිහාර මියෝ අන්න නිදත්ත හැම ඒ අශගණකෙන් එහෙම බේකාර මිහෙකේ බොළු තෙරේක ඉන්න කම වඤ්ඤා කීන බයනගේ බිහේවියර් හුන්නානි දැන් වර නුසාෆුකම අලුගොන්න ෆෙන්නන් ටිකොල රගල ෆෙනේපා මේ මෙහර අලුගොන් මෙන්න එගේ අලුගොන් මෙන්ගේ හෂිකඩ බිරුගතීම නුනි හාස් වීම එබ හර්මෙන්ගේ මේ හිස්සා බෙහෙ බයන් උන්දගෝ එක නේවා හාස්වේ නේවා අල්ලා කුරුවේල් නේවා ඒගොත හෂිකණ්ඩුගේ නර්වස් සිස්ටම් නෝනේ හිස්සා බෙහෙ නිසාම් මසෙකෙ කුරාණි තලා තයාරුවා නුරුලිගද වෙගෙන් වෙස මීහකු දුරල්ලා නෝනේ ෆ්ලයිට් එතනොන් නිකුමගෙන් දා නෝනි ෆ්‍රීස් මෙහර ඩොක්ටර් පීටර් ලවීන් මෙන් කාල මිහෝ සොමැටික් එක්ස්පීරියන්සින්ගේ හැම එක්ස්පර්ට්ස්න්ගේ එන බුණනි අස්සුග ෆයිට් ඔෆ් ෆ්ලයිට් ෑම අස්ලු රංගලේ ඒරු මීහායන් ඒකල සලෑම වෙවේ කොම්මස් වරකන් ඒ ලිබුණු කෙල්ලුම් එකම් ෆ්‍රීස් රෙස්පොන්ස් ඇසිය අස්ලුග හෂිගඩ වරන් උදගුලේ ඉන්සානුන්න එකම් ජනවාරුන්නකන් එහා උදගුල නෝනේ ෆ්‍රීස් රෙස්පොන්සේ එම අලුගොඩ දිමාවි දෙහාස් එකාවිස් වන අහරු මේ බාතොලොන් මේ සුනාමි එරි ෆහුන් ඒන බුණි ඒනකන් ඉශීන්දගෙන් නමාදෙන් නොකරබේ මෙහරු එකම් ටෙස්ට් තකා හුරිහාචි හදාෆීමේ එකම් කොස් නොන් ඉශීදවේ තදුවාවරු එහෙම දැන් අලුගොන් මං ඒනේ අක්කොන් සොමැටික් එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් මසෙක්කේ කුරීරුග එංගුණි එක්කල ඒන කියාදින් හම මේ රාළු අරමුන් එරුග ඒන හම ෆ්‍රීස් වියේ ෆ්‍රීස් වෙෆා මින් ෆෙනේ එම්මෙන් තම් මින් උලේතන් එකම ඒනේකන් කම එක්කොතක ස්කුඩාවස් නොලවුනේ එහෙම දැන් ඒති අලුගොන් මං දුව්වාල් දිනීම අනේ දුහු ඇසබුණි ඉෂීන්ද වුනේ නමාදු කුරන් ඉෂීන්ද වුනේ හැම්බීම අස්ස අලුගොන් මෙගේ හෂිකටුගේ බහරුලා දෙත්ත හම එකණි හිස්සා බෙහෙ බයක නූන මෙන්ටල් හෙල්ත් බයක නූන් දෙත්ත හරිකණ්ඩ මෙව්වනේ ගොයි දැන් මිහාරු වර ෆහුන් මේ ඩොක්ටර් ඉංග්‍රිඩ් ක්ලේටන් මෙන් කාලා මිහුන් ෆෝන් රෙස්පොන්ස් එකේ අච්ච මෙයි ෆෝන් රෙස්පොන්සකි අලුගොන් මෙ එක්කල කොම්මෙසරක බිරුගතිීම මේ අනෙම් මිහා හිංහම ජෙස්සුමට ටකා එක්ක ප්ලීස් කුරංග බෝලේ මිහු එම ඒ ෆෝන් රෙස්පොන්සකි අලුගොන් මෙ එක්කල අලුගොන් මෙන් සේෆ් වාණී මිමිහාම් රුලි නෑස හොරීම ඒගොතා එකල් මම්ම මෙන් පුඩීම නුනි බප්ප මෙන් පුඩීම බප්ප මෙන් හිංහම ජස්සක අලුගොන් මෙන් තිබේන දෙත්ත වකි ගොතකං උලේ ඒ ෆෝන් රෙස්පොන්සකි then mioti me fault response ka vagat kama ekkom hama unconscious wani vettani ehem me bay kudin eba asa bune hama enke hama huref vettani e hama has wima nuni warak gaateri fini me fa den hama nege vagot den hospital ashe gendani ehem me huri me stress responses me onnani wara boda gulifa alugon me muamala kurave gota ඒ මිහාරකු දැන් නාන්න අනිදත් එබස් කාල නුරක්කාතරි සිංගාය කාල එච්චෙන් අලොන් මෙන්න කබදස් අනන් මීහුන්නා මුආමලක් කුරාරුග මම ෆන්නා මුආමලක් කුරාරුග නූනි ස්කූලක් ගොස ස්කූල් ටීචරුන්නා දැන් කුදින්නා එහෙම් බීම දැන් මිහාරෝ මි කීන බම්මි වණි අස්සුග ඒ හිස්සුගේ බෙහෙ බය මිකාල ගොයිග වීම මි අලාමත ෆෙන්නානි ඒකි ගොයිගොත මීග තෙරේග මිහිරි දෙත්ත රුලිගදවෝ මා මිසාලක self harming වරක් ගින මිහාරෝ එම් self harming නුනිදුන් අබදු බිරුගනේ ෆහුරුන් අබදස් මෙහෙ කහිවන් කම වහන් උලේ හෙන් අබදස් තයියාරත් තිබෙන දැන් එම්බකෝ දෙම්බුනේ අබදු විස්නනියයි overthink එහෙම මේ කන්තතක කී හැම වර බොඩවස් trauma යා ගුලිෆ දැන් මීග අනේ මෙහර mental health කී වරන් පහෙ අලුගොන් මෙන්න එන්නොන්තෝ එම් ප්‍රොෆෙසර් මුතානා දැන් අබ්දුල් හලීම් අෆානා මි බේෆලුන්ඩ කියස ෆලස්තීනුගවෙස් වර බොඩක් මී PTSD යා බෙහෙ දිරාසතක කොරවෆ් තිබි බේෆලෝ දැන් අලුගොන්ඩ නසීබුකොම් ප්‍රොෆෙසර් මුතානා යක්කො මසෙක කොරන් chance ලිබුම් යුක්‍රේන් ග මසෙක කුරීරුග එබේෆලුම් විදාලවනි අස්සුග culturally අලුගොන්මෙන්ගේ බොඩ mental මස්සල කියා දෙවෙනි හරිගණක් වාගොයි කොතරේ එහෙම ඒගොත බුණීමේ එංගේනි එහෙම PTSD නොකිය හිඟාෂේ වාගොයි මිසාලක බුරකට්ට ගිනන් තදවරා හෙයියේ නූනි බොලුගරිස්සා හෙයියේ බඩු ගවෑ හැදේ හෙයියේ මිකහල ගොයි කොතරේ අලුගොන්මෙන් වාහක දක්කණි බොඩ acceptable ලීවස් මිහින්නේ වාහක දක්කන් එහෙම අලුගොන්මෙන් මිසාලක mental health මස්සලේ ගන්න කුජ්ජකාරික ඒනගේ හෂිකඩ වාගොයි බලන්ජේබ නිදේතෝ මිමිහර මි symptoms අස්සුග මේ psychiatrist එක කියා දීෆියා හම complex PTSD නොනි PTSD වානි දැන් හම එගොතන් ADHD වෙසම මි හම අලාමත්තකෙන් අස්සුග මි අන්නනි එලිබේ ගෙල්ලොන් තකෝ her ADHD ගවස් මිසාක ඩොක්ටර් පීටර් ලවීන් මෙන් කාල බේෆලොම් මෙහර මේ දාලවනි අස්සුග ඒ අමිල්ල හෂිකඬු තෙරේ වර නුතනවස් වානේ අලුගොන් මෙවස් මිසාක එච්ච මේ ෆකුරුගතී අලුගොන් මෙන්න ඕකාස් දෙමෙ එමෙ මේක මානේ කී වර උන්දගු ඉහසාස්තක කොරවෙන්න හෂිකඬුන් ඇති බීර කුරන් බේනුම් වානේ එමෙ හෂිකඬු තෙරේ කී නුරක්කා තනෙක්ක එහෙන් තකුඩ ඉරුස්සරමියන් අඩුයිවෙනි වර කණ්ඩේ කුජ්ජකේති නෝනි මිගේ එමෙ බස්නහා කොච්චාමි එහෙම ජාමිල්ලා හෂිගඬුගේ තෙරේක තයිහු සස්තන් හුන්නාන් එමෙ ඒ සලාම වුමට්ටක අස්ලුග මේ නිකුන් ඩිස්ට්‍රැක්ට් වාංචනේ අබද ෆෝන් වස් බලන්ජෙහෙනි කාෂිගඩ එකඩ ඉන්න උඳගෝවනි එහෙම මිම තෙන් මේ මිහාර මි දිරාසයකි මිතිරාසයකි අසුග මේ මිෂිගන්ගේ කෝට් තකුන් හතරු කෝටෙක්ගේ මේ ස්ටැටිස්ටික්ස් බලාලීරුග කොපතෝ එතන වදෙ ෆහුරි කුදින්ගේ හුරි අලාමැත්තකගේ හර ඔපිසේෂනල් ඩිෆයන්ට් බිහේවියර් හර වරක් ගින Dr. Shauna Madam, Dr. Shanuha Madma Dakwal the Bankandege Vahaka, Mer Kung Kahala, mental health muscle the Keto Gina, juvenile justice system Terevana Kudinga me Hundani. Oppositional defined disorder, Ulani Vara Matiga, conduct disorder, Sunani Vara Matiga. Mer conduct disorder, Kivis some border, මේ බෙල්ලෙන වෙරි කමුගේ තෙරේග කුජ්ජායන් ඉහ්මාල් වේ නූනි ඒ කුජ්ජාගේ එහසාස්ත බලා රංගල නුගණෙවි නූනි ඒ කුජ්ජා එකල් විට්නස් කුරම්වා ගොත නූකුරෙවිගෙන් අන්න බදල්තකෙ දැන් හැම ඒගේ ඉතුරු මිහරු නියුරෝ සයන්ස් ඔවස් එබ දක්කා අස ඒ කුදින්ග සිකුණි හැම විහා ඉරුවස් එබ හුරයේ බය ෆහරන් උනිකම එහෙම බජා ඒ උනිකන් හුට්ටස් වෙස් epigenetics මිහාර එබ බුනේ ඒ උනිකන් හුට්ටස් වර ඕගාතරි මා හලක බොඩුවඤ්ඤකා ඒ කුදින් එහා බොඩ කරුලිකද නුවාණයේ නූනි ඒ මිහාර වයලන්ස් අහිසාබ කරන උදානේ එහෙම මාළුගොඩ මෙන් එබ වර විස්නන් චේදත්තෝ මිසල්ක කුජ්ජකම විහාෆානේ බය ෆහරන් එබ හොන් එහෙම විම එබාත අලුගොඩ මෙන්න දෙම් තෆ්සීල් කො डॉक्टर शनुहा विदाल देवण मादमा ते मिहारो हिस्सा बेहे बया मी बातोगे वाहक कोडको देखेविज्जे मिहारो एकम ट्रोमा ए मी के गेल्लुन त लिबुनीमा हुदिन्न दुनिये फेन्ननी तफातको साइकोलॉजिकली वेस सोमैटिक की हाशिगंडो फेन्नगोता दें අනෙක නියුරොලොජිකලි ඒ අලුගොන් මෙන්ගේ හිස්සා බෙහෙබ මේ හුරිහා බෑකුම සෙබ උන්දග්ගු වේ අනෙක දුනිය ෆෙන්නග බදල් වේ එහෙම අලුගොන් මෙන්න බුනේ විදාන කුජ්ජ කද්ම තින් නුලෙරේ තින් උළුනීම ගෝස් වාණයේ බුනේ විදාන එකමක එක්කල ඒ තෙරේග ඒවා ගොයි උන්දග්ගු වෙගෙන් ගොස් අනෙක දුනියේ කි රක්කාතරේ තන නෝන් මේ හොන්න ෆෙන්නගොතක ඒ මිසාලක සෙක්ෂුවල් අබියුස් වණි වෙච්චියා එහි සාබුන් ඒ කුජ්ජාය දුනියේ ෆෙන්න ගොයි මීහුම් ෆෙන්න ගොයි ඒ බිරුවරි බයක්කම ෆෙන්නානි අනෙක සෙක්ෂුවල් අබියුස් කුරා මීහෙ වෙච්චියක එමෙ ෆුර්තමානෝ කොන් ඇස්සකන් කමෙවස් නුකුරානේ හමවර ඕගා තෙරිකොන් හේෝ මීහ කොන්නානි එහෙම් බීම සිස්ටම් තෙරිය වන්න ඉරුගෙස් බිරුවස් කන්නා නනික සම්ම අන්න සෝෂල් වර්කර්ස් වරන් හේයි පාම වරන් ඕගා තෙරියම එහෙම් බීම ඒ කුදින්නක අසු ඉතුබාර වස් නුකුරේ වෙන ෆුර්තමාන කොන්නේ එහෙම දුනියේ ෆෙන්න ගොයින් එබ බදල්වේ දැන් මිහාරු කිහිනප්පා දෙත්තෝ මි වණි සිකුඩියා මිහාර සිකුඩියක මින්නනි තීම් ද මගන තීම් පශලයකද බහාල විදාන දෙත්තෝ නියෝ කෝටෙක්ස් එම් මති ඒ එක මිසාක ස්කූලක් ගොස්ස එච්චි දස් කුරුමාද මිතනුගෙස් මිසාල් කාලෝන දක්කවාහක අන්ඩර්ස්ටෑන්ඩ් වා මම කාලෝරි හච්ච ප්‍රොසෙස් වණි එතනෝ I mean the limbic brain that the alone menge emotions are memories are and then ekala fear scan kora biru erikan scan kora ba innani mi bag then mean ani reptilian brain ekala automatic un hinga horiha kama misal ka neva haswon haswima noni misal ka ane bhashikandu hajam kuram bejiya काम कों हुन्ना जेहेने एमे में देन एवस विस्ना खनु जेता देंगन नेवा लान जेहेने कमस हेमे में हुरिया कमे कोराने एमे तीरी बा देन डॉक्टर पेरी के मसक्कतों के एगे मिहारो एम कुडेरो को विहारो के एमे तीरी बा कंग असु को मसक्के कोराने देन देंगन बा देन एमे मती बा असु को वाहक देक्कुम में अन्ननी එහෙම මෙම ෆොරතම් වාහකේ විශ්නු දෙක එහෙම ලෝබි වෙස් මි දස්වණී අසුග තිරී දෙබෑග එහෙම තිරී දෙබෑග ලෝබි දස්වෑරුග හුස් ඉහසාස්තා මිහාර මෙවනි ලොයිබ්බේ එහෙම ලෝබි මිසාලක තන් කොළ අණියා වෙරිකොන් ඇස ඔය ජීයා ඊතා ලොයිබ්බ වාණි ලෝබික එබ වේ කොම්ස් කල අණියාය එහෙම sexual abuse ve fahuri mi hevchi ya noni bode aniya libe furicha ena wara gap vetana misalaka ekhala miha ko innan hiyar kuran ei hashikandan aadave fahuri ehen den mihar juveniles adolescents ke wahaga dakka eruga mihar mati ka mina frontal lobe eba ei asalukan men ekhala mi impulse control le mi bona ba ekhala kame mi mihar gossa mitanuga පාරු වෙච්ච කුරහම්බිය එකම කොස්ත එකන් කොෆියා ස්කූල් ක මස්සල ජේනේ එහෙම ජය කන්නු කුරාන මේ ඉම්පල්ස් කන්ට්‍රෝල් බෑ ඉන්ඩානේ මිතා දැන් මි බෑ අස්තුග එහා බොඩක ඩෙවලොප් නුවානේ ඒරකෝ බොඩ ඩෙවලොප් වෙ ෆහින්නනි රිවෝඩ් සිස්ටම් ගේ බෑ එහෙම කුදින් එක රට්ටි කුදින්නා එක්කොන් උළුනීම වෙස් ඒ රිවෝඩ් සිස්ටම් උන් ඩෝපමින් නයිට්සි රිලීස් කුරීම අසොග ඒ කුදින්නම් මේ එක සජෙස්ටිබිලිටි කොමස් බේෆ්ලක විතාල එදෙම් එහෙම මෙන්නේ කුදින් කුෂව සරාග නම් පස්සේ හවණි කල් රට්ටි හින්නම් වෙස් එක රිවෝඩ් එකේ මේ කල්කම කොල්ලොන් එහෙම මෙම බොඩුවම උමුරුම් බොඩුවම දා වරකන් අසොග ඒ දෙබෑ එව්වරුවානි එහෙම මේ තංකොල හගුවිරුග එකහලකම කුරෙවුණස් මෙසාලක ඒ රංගලු කුරවේනයේ ඒ සිකුණ්ඩින් යන්න අනෙක් සිකුණ්ඩිග මෙසාලක හුන්න අනේ මේ නර්ව්ස්ත එනාරුතකුග මයිලින් ශීත් කියා එච්චෙන් උෆෙදෙන් ෆරහානී ගාගණක බාර ආහාර එහා හිසාබුග මයිලින් ශීත්තන් එළුනේ මෙසාලක කරන්ටු නරෙබ්විස්නවායරුග ඒක ප්ලාස්ටික් බයෙන් ඉදේතා දෙත්ත එහෙම ඒ මයිලෙන් ශීත්තන් එළුනීම වර ස්පීඩ් බාරුකොන් අස්සුක මෙසෙජ්තද්දානි එහෙම කුදින් නව්වෙසස්සු හිතරණ මගේ හශිකණ්ඩ මිවනී කිහිනෙන් හෙයේ වර අවස්වාම් පරාණ එහෙම මිහුරිහක්ම සමජහේනී අස්සුක ගාගණක හම ආශාරයවරම සදි මති එහෙම්බීම මේ වර නාසුක ඕමුරෙන් එහෙම අලුගොන්ම මෙසාලක එවස් කල් පරුවායෙන් මේ හදා ප්ලෑනෙන් හදාකම වියස්වස් එහුරිහා එච්චස්ස විස්නං එබ ජෙහෙයේ කිහින බයමි කුච්චා මෙර බයෙක් කුතින් තිබෙන දත්තෝ මිසාලක මම්මයා බප්පයා මරුවෙෆා දැන් එකම ගේතරේක මිසාලක මස්වාතක තිබේන කුරා දැන් අනෙක් කුච්චකි මිසාලක මේ sexual abuse ෆෝරේ කුච්ච එහෙම ජමි දෙකුදින්න බේන වනි වර තෆාතු දෙවත්තරෙක්ගේ ප්ලෑන් පරුවාතකෙ එන් අරා ගන්න මෙම ඉන්ඩිවිජුවලයිස් ප්ලෑන්ස් එබ බේනුම්බේ ඒ කන්තත්තකුන් අරා ගන්න දැන් ඉංගෝ අදත්තෝ ඇඩ්වර්ස් චයිල්ඩ්හුඩ් එක්ස්පීරියන්සස් ගේ ස්වාල්තක මීවස එක අලුවන දෙන්නේ හින් ඉන්ටරැක්ටිව් කොන් දා බය මෙර ඇඩ්වර්ස් චයිල්ඩ්හුඩ් එක්ස්පීරියන්සස් ගේ වර බොඩු ස්ටඩියෙක් හෙදුණු ඒ අන්න නවස්තේක අඩ්ඩිහ හවන ආහාර නුනි හබ්වන ආහාර ඒරුග අලුවන්මෙන් නං එඟුන් එඟෙන් පැෂි අස්සුග මිකාල කන්ත දිමාවීම පහුන් එබ අලුවන්මෙන්ගේ සිහතක් එබ බදල්තකෙන් ආදේ එම්බිම මිහාරු අනෙකාස කළ අලුවල් දෙවන මේ නශාත් මෙහෙම්වේ මහම මෙහාර විහාස් දෙන් බයි උන්දගු වෙදාන මිසවාල්තක ජවාබ් දෙවන් එහෙම් බෙජ්ජ මස්සලෙන ජවාබ් නොදෙව්විය සිංගතෝ දැන් එකම් ජවාබ් දෙව්වාෆියා වර රංගලු ඒරුම් හම් වගුතුන් අලුගුන් මෙන්න ෆෙන්නමුන් දානි කිහා වරෙත්තෝ දැන් කොම්මෙ සවාල්කස් ජවාබ් දෙව්වාෆ ඒ ජවාබක ඒ පොයින්ට් දෙව්වාති ඉංගත Okay. එහෙම මිහාරෝ මීන් බලාලිමස් එංගේ දෙත්තෝ එබ මිතාග තිබ්බේ බේෆුළුන්ගෙවස් එබ හුරිකම් මිකාල කන්තත තහම්මල් කුරව්වා ෆහයාතුක දැන් මිහාරෝ අනේ මේ පොයින්ට් තකෙක් දෙන් එබුරි දෙත්තෝ කොම්ම සුවාලකන් ඒ පොයින්ට් මිහාරෝ මි ස්ටඩීන් අලුගොන් මෙන්න දස්වි එච්චකි පොයින්ට් හතරක වුරේ මතිවෙජ්ජා හතරෙවස් අදි හතරක මච්ච ගොස්සියා then you slide up Devidanma. හතරකොම් මිහාර මච්ච ගොස්සියා මි ස්ටඩීම් බුණාගොතුක වෙච්චයා එමීහුන් නං ඒ තහම්මල් කුරංජිහුණු කන්තකොන් එමීහුන්ගේ මි හිස්සා බෙහේ බයවස් වර උන්දගු තකෙ වෙෆ එහෙරි එහෙම්බීම මි ස්ටඩීම් බෙලීරුග ෆෙන්නනි හතරකවර මතිවෙච්ජියා තං එමිහා උමුරුන් දුවස්වාතනුන් cancer eba kurimat lanje, diabetes, cardiovascular issues, mikal arthritis, adi ehem bes autoimmune conditions. Ehem bima alun mendang eba enke asuga e kudairuga tahammal ekala kame kuranchi hijia hashi gandang ege wara bodeti gellon tak libekan hama ekani nafsani balita no ekam kuri ka alun me misalaka blood pressure macha kosken diyamakayen ane nahane detto කීරෙන හේ කුඩයිරු වෙෆෝති කියේ මිහාරෝ අලුගඩ බෙන්න මිහාරෝ මිසාලක primary health care නූනි school system ගේ තෙරෙම්බස් මි දිහ සුවාලු කුරම් ෆෙට්ටිජියා වර කුරිස්සුරෙවස් පාහග වාණ දෙත්තෝ මි කුදින්නකි එහි වරන් අවහත් දෙවිජ්ජා මින් අරා ගණවේන කුදින්නේ Thank Madam Sajidaves Vidalu Kaneg Kuriga formative years ga e benumva ehi libidjiya kuding sehada e kuriha me e kuding ulegota e kuding me mustaqbala etsi rangaluwan kama okay thing alone me dakkalam benumvani me ane video engha mihar me tani ma durad detta aha minno mihar me video ballar faharigga undagu wedane ehem bejja hama bera wadan navias masala nengeto ekamko me ane america ge prison negga mihon ge ihsasta shiakura
It's time now, everyone. We're going to do the Compassion Trauma Circle. Is everyone ready to face their past with compassion? Is that a yes? While you were growing up, during your first 18 years of life, if a parent or other adult in the household often or very often would swear at you, insult you, put you down or humiliate you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or threw something at you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured, step inside the circle. If you often felt that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special, step inside the circle. If your family lived in extreme poverty, step inside the circle. Step inside the circle. Step inside the circle. Step inside the circle.
There is no shame. There is no shame. There is no shame.
I'm so good. Good to see you. How are you? Amen.
Leadaki kuda